he's already dancing, and it's perfect because of old guy, young guy this week. That's all I'll say. It's not a
Oh,
quiz.
that's
It's not a quiz. I
oh
just
God.
it's good. I'm very happy for Steve. Steve had a big week. Steve's article on the blog, I think, might have been his most read article ever on the blog. Very eloquently
There you
written.
go. Good.
Uh, letter, open letter, and I think you should take a read at that. But also met the. Is it fair to say the love of your life, the other love of your life? Oh, how do we put that so we don't offend Susan?
The musical infatuation. How's
Okay,
that?
there we go.
Not nearly the love, but the musical
Ashley McBride.
infatuation.
Yes, your
Yes. Yep.
first time meeting her.
First time meeting her,
Wow.
and for a charity cause. So we'll talk about that in a few weeks. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, good. I'm happy for you. Proud of you. This is the Stuff Summer Says podcast
Steve.
with Steve. Steve, I'm declaring this our season wrap up episode, if you will, as I pull up our rundown here. We've got some stuff that we're going to talk about, but we also wanted to include you, and by include you, I mean the people listening. We've always included Steve, of course. The survey results are in, and they're pretty damn interesting. If I do say so myself. Some surprises for the fact that they weren't surprises, I think would be the best way to say that.
Okay.
So let's do this a little bit reverse order. You can sit through this part until we get to the meat of the episode, but we'll start with the news of the week. Last night was the national championship. What did you think of the broadcast, Steve? I thought it was a clean, fine broadcast, a normal national championship.
Yeah, normal national championship. Be interesting to see the numbers when they're released. Yeah, clean. What you expected from ESPN. I think the only thing that was, and not eyebrow raising, just interesting in terms of the power of the people. Pat McAfee does the Q&A, the sit down Q&A with the two coaches
Thought that
in
was
pregame.
interesting too.
That was, I mean, everything else is kind of by the book, and that's what you do. But he's the guy. Like, I mean, clearly he's the guy, right? So that was interesting to me.
I I don't know. I don't know if this is a fair way to equate it, but it's usually like either around the election or like the Super Bowl. Like usually the main news anchor for whoever is carrying that interviews the president, sits down with the president, right? And these are in some ways the presidents were the two most important figures in this game, and I don't know. I don't have an issue with it per se. I just thought it was very notable that they chose him as opposed to Nick, as opposed to um, Reese or Chris Fowler, and what they might have to say. Um, the if we could, I don't want to rehash the James Franklin press conference, but I don't really. These co press conferences, co attended interviews are weird. I don't like them. Let's stop doing them.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it's efficient, right? You get one stop
Yeah,
shopping
sure.
and you play off it on some stuff, and maybe that's the thing with as you think about it from the ESPN side, what's going to break these two together? It's kind of boring. It is what it is. What do we do that breaks it up? Oh, well, let's McAfee do it. Everybody thinks he's jovial and a little more low key, and maybe we'll get some segment out of it that's interesting as a result. But yeah, there's no. It's kind of like post game interviews in anything, or during the game, middle of the game interviews and everything. There's not much there, but the one time you get something, it makes people say, "Oh, we should keep doing that."
Right.
Right? Like I think all wrestling interviews are still being done because Bo Nickel, said that's what we do at Penn State when
Right.
they were beating Ohio State 6 years ago now, or whatever it was.
I I don't know. I agree with that. I feel like I will say, and I don't mean this as a critique of ESPN, and maybe this was because Penn State played in the game before it, so to speak. I don't know that last night necessarily had the grandeur, the gravitas of a national championship in some ways. Maybe it didn't hit in till the end, I think, until like the streamers and confetti's falling. I thought the interview that Holly Rowe did with Ryan Day was really well done, and I thought Ryan Day, credit to him for like actually giving authentic answers.
Mm-hmm.
And the cinematography on that is great because just the angle of the shot was good. But I think some of that also goes back to the fact we're now 2.5 weeks past when we usually, or a week and a half past when you would usually kind of be crowning a national champion. And I think I think that was a big takeaway, is that's gonna get some used to, or some time to get used to. I don't know. I'm fine with the championship being on a Monday, but I understand the Friday argument. Um, would you be opposed to them? Do you care? And would you be opposed to them actually doing this coming Saturday? Because it's the next free Saturday on the schedule.
Right. No, I don't think I'd be opposed. I don't think. Again, I think the ratings will be interesting. So what was missing from the game? Like it didn't feel like it had the grab. What was missing?
It just okay. Maybe this is because I tuned in right when the game started, but it just didn't. It didn't have a buzz to it, and I know that it's just like they're like it kind of felt like even, and part of that was maybe because I thought about how the game was going to go, right? Like I thought Ohio State was going to win, and I thought Ohio State was going to pretty much control how the entire game went, and that's exactly what happened. So maybe that had, but I maybe, and I think we've talked about this before. Like maybe it's the comparing it to the Super Bowl, and the problem with the Super Bowl is it's such a unique event, right? Like it's the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. It is a culmination of not just football, but then you have all this marketing that goes into it. You have all of this, all of the music production with the halftime show, and I felt like between the Trump thing, which was odd, and I thought the Kendrick Lamar, or I'm sorry, Travis Scott performance was weird. It just it missed some notes for me. I think would be the best way to say that. And I don't know that that's necessarily ESPN's fault. I think that's just the feelings fault, the vibes fault.
I think the Super Bowl is a great comparison because there should not be a comparison, and that's the challenge for me, right? This is a college football game. I mean, I know
Right.
for how much the ship has sailed and what that is, but as you try to be the Super Bowl or try to do those things, you're always going to come up short. You're just not going to have the money they are. You're not going to have the level of stars they have to do the pregame concert, the halftime concert, or whatever else. Let the bands play, make it a college football game, and just go about it. And I think there'd be something said for that. And I think the other thing that was missing was that there was nobody from the SEC. Like I think it didn't feel any less legitimate, but it felt like I think the viewership will be less. ESPN wasn't thrilled with the semis, the viewership of the semis, and it'll be interesting to see what comes of this one.
Well, and that's a good point. Like I think the SEC brings all of the chatter with it, I guess would be.
And it brings people who watch. I mean, I've heard
Right.
people here talking, oh, well, USC, nobody watches football games in LA. Like they were blaming the Penn State rating on the fires in LA.
No.
Nobody watches college football in LA to begin with, right? So it's just that kind of stuff that you miss. But it feels like Super Bowl light because they're trying to be that. And if they feel as if they'd wrap their arms around college football more, it might feel different.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I agree with that. All right. Anything else about the national championship last night? That was good.
No,
clean.
it was what you expected, right?
Yeah.
Like it was
fine.
Yeah.
We're on to 2025. No, we're not. We lied. We're going to recap 2024. All right. Again, as I mentioned last week on the podcast, I wanted to give everybody some time to collectively catch their breath, breathe, relax. And I think we did that. I think we did that. So here's what I posed to you. We have a couple of different things we're going to go over. I have some questions for you, some moments, looking for some things. I want to start with this question, and I want to frame it. I went two aspects at it. What did we learn this Penn State football season? Aspect one I'm looking for is X's and O's, results on the field. What did we learn about that? Number two is a little bit more broad and open, and I would say either fan experience at like the Darian and Steve brand of stuff, or I would say if you want to go emotional and sappy, because some people did go emotional and sappy when they sent us.
Oh, good! I'm glad to hear. That's cool.
So, go ahead. I'll give the floor to you.
Well, you explaining it helps with the text because I broke out some questions.
Okay.
I think my first what did we learn is that anybody can coach the Penn State defense as it's now constituted. Like realistically, right? We change coordinators and they still shut people down and do whatever else. So I think they've accumulated. What we've learned is they've accumulated a lot of really good talent on the defensive side of the ball, and it may not matter. At least it hasn't mattered the past 2 seasons or so, 3 seasons now. Who's scheming them up?
Right.
So that's good for them.
Okay.
I think we learned there's still a lot of same old, right? Like, and not that they
Okay.
didn't do better this, but it's still really, really good, just not quite there, right? And I think
I
they're
think that's
closer than
right.
they were before.
Yeah.
So I think we learned that. And if we're going to lean into the James Franklin letter from her before, we've learned if somebody didn't know it by now, he's the guy who's going to be here. If they're going to win a national championship in the next few years, it's going to be under him. So yeah, I think those are 3 things we learned.
How many is a few? I'm curious.
What did I say? Next few
You
years?
said next few years. Is that like next
3. I mean, he's probably
decade?
he's probably got 2 or 3 before we. I mean, because after this year, people will start getting really antsy next year, right? If things don't.
Yeah.
Although the math
I hadn't
hasn't
thought about
changed,
that.
you know.
No. I mean, by all indications, this might be his last. Like, he might be done after this contract, and I think he's still got what till 2030, right? So
The buyout starts getting a little better,
yeah,
but they
but
still isn't a
that's
realistic number yet. I mean, you're going to have it. He's going to be around to the new stadium open. I mean, there's just no way that you're getting rid of
yeah.
And they do all the right thing. Program wise, they're doing all the right things. So those are the things we learned. I think I'll go with those 3 initially, and we'll see what else we come up with.
All right. I like that. What did I learn this football season? I think for the X's and O's one, I think what I learned was that the Penn State fandom, in some ways, has started to become more socially, or maybe not socially, that's a bad word for it, just in football-ly, I'm making that word up, aware.
Nice football league.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I think that fans are now starting to get the bigger picture, and I think the last month or so has been a nice reset for expectations. I think because Penn State won, I would argue, 2 big games, quote unquote, if we're throwing that word around, between the SMU game, a game you're supposed to win, and then the Boise State game, what proved to be a top 10 win for James Franklin. Go into the Orange Bowl, and I think James Franklin, I think Andy Kotelnicki, and I think even Tom Allen coached not a perfect game, but a really good game, right? Like a solid game. And yet it all kind of backfires because the wide receivers can't make plays, and the quarterback throws an interception, and all of this kind of storyline that has built towards James Franklin has been, it's James Franklin's fault, but James Franklin didn't run routes or throw the football.
Right. Yep.
And I think Penn State fans visually needing to see that was kind of like a awareness wake up moment that I think that is what I think collectively I think Penn State fans have learned. Like I felt that, and it was I didn't write it because I didn't think it was the undercurrent of the whole season, as I think the right there being there was there. But I think ultimately that was maybe what we more so learned within the last month or so. But I think that's really what the big takeaway is: expectations can and should change.
Okay.
I would go with that. Okay.
So did I hear a little bit of, because they became more football-y? What was the word?
Football-y. Yeah, it's 3 L's and a Y.
Since fans became more football-y, did I hear patience as a subtext of that?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it, because I think
I'm just making
people were very impatient. I think people were very impatient, and yet we get a top 5 AP finish, first one in literally 20 years. You get a Fiesta Bowl trophy out of it. You get the memory of a home football playoff game. Yeah, you might not have like a win over 1, 2, and 3 in the rankings, but you had a very good football season. You had a Heisman candidate. You had all of these other cool little moments and comeback wins and dramatic games and things like that I think added up and made this season fun. But I think there was a lot of just being patient this season, and you'll get a little bit of reward. And I think Penn State fans were rewarded for, regardless of how the Orange Bowl ended. Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with that. That makes sense.
I
don't know if they're going to be patient by something goes wrong September 27th of
Sure.
2025 at home, the patience might end pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's how this works. I mean, I think it
Okay.
was even Ryan Day said last night, if you want to know what it's like, try being a head football coach, try losing the first game next season. Like,
Right.
yeah, just so. Okay, what did we learn from the Darian and Steve perspective of like fan culture, I guess, or fan experience media? What did we learn there? Because I think your blog, or your most recent article, kind of hinted at what I thought.
Uh-oh.
I thought you think you're going to say.
I don't know. Let's find out. I thought the playoff game was the best experience for fans
Not what I thought you were
this season.
But okay.
I wondered too. I'm like, what did I hit there? I mean, just because it was clean, it was. I mean, because we talked about going to do what was going to be different, and a lot was made of that. Fan experience. What did we learn? They were a little better with information in general in terms of athletics. Maybe that's what. No, still not what I'm. What was I supposed to say?
I don't know. I thought you were going to say just about the James Franklin and worrying about what other people say or have to think, or kind of getting caught up in either the tussles with the media, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, from him learning that, I guess maybe, but I'm not sure he's learned that, right? Like, I think
He needs to prove
come
there.
next year, there's going to be another one of those. And I think fans the same thing. Like, it's try losing the first game next season, as Ryan Day said. So I don't know that patience and above it works for either one of them. But from fan experience, the playoff game was really good. They thought they did a good job with that. And I do think that the latter end of the season, whether somebody was listening to you say, "Hey, I need information about the stadium," and 2 days later it comes out, or maybe a day later it comes out, kudos for what seems to be happening with the renovation process, from the felling of the press box to the whatever else. Like, it seems like
Better.
this might be a little bit different and / better, which I think is good for the fans. Keep them informed because you need their money. You know,
I think
and if that's the way they're doing it, good for them.
I think when you put it that way, I agree with that. I think we learned one other thing, and this might be a football-y thing. We're coining that phrase now. I think the expectations for fans can now shift from the fact of no longer is it just have a good season. It's get into the playoff. Like, that's the goal right now, and then whatever happens. So I think that's important. It felt dynamically changed. I think from a fan experience, I think two things. I think you better get used to advertisements. That seems to be the biggest thing with the Pat Kraft era, between the super ribbon boards and just a lot more aggressive in your face from that aspect. Good or bad, I don't know, because it is more money coming in the door. I can live with it if that gets me a better result on the field and better amenities around the stadium and things like that. I think from the media perspective, I think Penn State's beat overall did a very good job of covering this team, and there was a lot of just like, I think they deserve, not that this is their job by any means, but I think they deserve a lot of credit for holding that patience, if we want to throw that word back around, and describing, laying that out to you. And I think we learned that more, maybe even as this kind of era changes of journalism changing and everything like that, Penn State fans are very damn lucky to have who they have covering the team and the information that we get from them.
Yeah, I think so. And it's such a big group. There's good options, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think that was big. Yeah.
Fan experience. You made some trips. What was the best trip? What was the best place you went to see that wasn't Beaver Stadium?
Trip. I mean, nothing. Madison is so tough to beat. The people there are so nice. The environment is just like so beautiful, and like it is what you think of if you were describing like idyllic college football to someone. I mean, West Virginia was fine, but I don't know that I go back. I'm not gonna miss not going back.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our best and we just have best. I don't know that we have worst, but you can throw in a worst if you want. Best on the field moment for Steve Sampson. What was your best on
the first pick six in the playoff game?
The Dominic DeLuca one.
Yeah.
You're just trying. Why? I'm curious.
Wait, you're just trying. What am I trying?
Are you just trying to be different?
Positive?
Are you trying to be different than me?
No. Why? Is that what you're gonna pick?
No.
No, that was snowballs for me. That was a home playoff. Again,
Okay.
we talked about that game as the first time ever, right? Like, was it a big game? It's the first time ever for this first playoff game. That's the moment you knew. That's the moment you knew the game was. They're going to be in pretty good shape, right?
Okay.
Realistically, I mean, that's early, but it's going to get the fans into it. It's going to be exciting. So it was exciting. I mean, so it was a very good moment on the field.
I only challenge you on that one because I was going to say the second one. I think that the second one is
I didn't know. Like, I didn't. But,
and
yeah.
I just
The
think
second one you knew it was over. The first one was exciting.
right. I don't know.
So I don't know if best moment.
I think the second one. No offense to Dom DeLuca, but the Tony Rojas one is so impressive in terms of the return and just if you go back, you can hear how people knew he's catching the ball while the ball is in air, and then them hitting Zombie Nation early. I think that would be the play that I remember 2024 by. I think anybody that was there had the Tyler Warren hike hike to touchdown catch happened in Beaver Stadium. It's absolutely that.
Right. I mean, because that's on the list too, right?
Yeah.
Because we had best play was there. Then that's probably my best play. So you probably
I think that one is.
that.
Yeah, I think that one's my best play too.
No.
Yeah, so we'll cross that one off the list. Best moment in terms of fan experience.
I think the day in Indy, realistically, no matter how it turned out, the day in Indy was fun. Like for our personal fan experience, right? We meet people. We we do the tour, the Speedway early in the morning. Was that the day before? Just the whole that trip.
Yeah.
So and then we commandeer a piece of a corner of the bar and kind of hang out with friends and tell them we're there. Like I think
never got into the bar.
It was fat. You didn't get up early enough. Well, both nights too. I mean, I think Indy all the way around, right? Like, and again, they lost. For me, it's about that experience. I mean, for me, it's about the people you can kind of hang out with, spend some time with. Oh my gosh, we saw that person there too. Whatever else, it was. Yeah.
I think the one for me, the best moment for me, is not one that like a lot of people shared. Well, there were several. Number one, we surprised my mom with my cousin from Texas. Didn't pulled that off without a hitch for the most part. That was impressive. The lasting memory of the college football playoff game day experience for me is going to be this kid that was sled riding down a hill near our tailgating field. And I just thought like this is like that's probably never going to happen where that kid's going to specifically know that he can bring a sled to the football game so that he can sled ride down that hill. And I thought that was cool. Like that was showed the fun of how in some ways bizarre that moment and that weekend was. But in a good way.
Cool.
All right. We did best play. All right. On the count of three, team MVP. 1, 2, 3.
No, you just go first because I think I think.
Oh no! Oh, he's gonna be different.
No. Go ahead. What do you, I think I know what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
I'm gonna say Tyler Warren. It's so obvious.
I know, and it didn't hit me till late because I was talking to Susan. She's like, "What are you guys talking about tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, this, and team MVP." And she's like, "Well, who's that?" I'm like, "Well, it might be." And luckily, she was sitting down, and you're sitting down too. It might be the quarterback, right? Like you could make a case. I mean, the running backs are interchangeable. The defense doesn't matter who it is because they stopped that great running back with what's his face not playing. I think it's Warren.
You're going to get a lot of feedback on that one, Steve. Not that you're.
I know. I agree. Like I think there's a lot of things that are wrong with them. Are they better if what's his face plays the whole season?
No, I don't think that. But I think Abdul Carter is probably before him. I think.
But Abdul Carter doesn't play against Boise State, and they stopped the running back, right? I mean, not that he doesn't do big things in their game, but like it's not like they're not deep on defense, right? And again, anybody can coach the defense, and the defense is deep. I don't know. Like is he top 5? I mean, I'm not.
He's
trying
top
to be
5. He's top 5. He's top 5.
Like I wasn't doing it just for but as I thought about it, I'm like, oh shit, that's just crazy. He can't possibly be. But in some ways, like somebody's got to throw the ball to Tyler Warren, and the running backs are interchangeable. Like, I mean, no disrespect to either one of them, but like neither one of them is bigger than the other in terms of what they're doing. So I don't know.
Because if the wide receiver, I understand the argument more.
And the wide receivers,
if the wide receivers stink that bad, and yet they still win, how many games they win? 13.
I don't know.
and
Like,
almost come back.
I'm not going to die on the hill, but he was like my first thought because it was easy to overrule the defense. It was easy to generalize and say there's not one there.
It's a nuanced take that I am surprised by.
I know. I was surprised too when I started thinking about it.
Because
but I knew you'd say Tyler Warren, right?
Yeah,
so
but I just think it was okay.
I mean, this team doesn't. There's. I guess there's probably 3 or 4 games this could.
Okay.
3 or 4, 2 or 3 they don't win without Tyler Warren. Maybe more.
They don't win the. I don't know that they win the. I guess you need them to throw the football, but I don't know that they win the Bowling Green game without Tyler Warren. I don't know that they win the. They certainly don't win the USC game without Tyler Warren. Although those throws against USC for the 4th downs to Julian Fleming are really good. And good point. I don't like it.
I don't went down the hill because it just struck me like, well, maybe
is
in the discussion.
Well, let's say, would I be this apprehensive about it if it's the way Penn State loses the Orange Bowl is Tyler Warren makes a catch over the middle, fumbles it.
Now we're making up different worlds.
But like,
yeah, would you right? Like if the last taste in your mouth wasn't what he did at the end, how much does that color the discussion? I mean, I think it's Tyler Warren. I don't think it's not, but I don't.
You make a good argument. There's
for Aller is wasted totally.
Okay,
I don't think
there is beyond reasonable or not like you have some doubt in this logic that I don't think a jury would convict. Is what I'm saying.
We'll see. Okay. Our listeners might, but we'll see.
All right. We got all that stuff. Any worst moments? Any worst moments? But
yeah, besides the Orange Bowl.
But besides, let's be nice to people. Maybe.
Well, no, that wasn't a good moment. That's not being mean to anybody. That's just the way it ended, and I think that's got to be a fair part of the discussion. We've had this discussion. It's not mean to anybody. It just probably could have ended differently.
I think the Orange Bowl, the feeling after the Orange Bowl is probably the worst I've ever felt as a Penn State football fan. So yes, that was the worst moment. All right, well, let's see what you had to say about all of this, and that being the listener or reader. Thank you for everybody that submitted all of our things here. I'm not going to read because we got so much feedback this time. I really appreciate that. I'm going to put most of the feedback on the blog. We'll cover up over the highlights there. The first question was, did Penn State overachieve, underachieve, or meet your preseason expectations? 57% said overachieve, and 37% said met expectations. I put overachieve because I said they were going to go 10-2, and they went 11-1.
Okay. So 94% of the people are happy.
Yeah, and then there's
generally
6% that said underachieve, and I don't. I guess you're mad that they didn't win a national championship. I don't know. I didn't have them there.
Don't bite the hand that listens to the podcast and responds.
I didn't have them there. Okay. This one I made up from last year. I maybe we'll refine this one, but overall, how would you describe Penn State's 2024 season? And we were looking for a one-word answer, and I gave you 4 options. Those options were amazing, good, fine, and disappointing. Most of the votes went between good and amazing. Good won with 52%, and amazing was second with 43%.
Wow.
I think I answered good on that one. Because I think amazing probably maybe is like they get to the national championship game, and I think good would have been like I was good. And I couldn't pick. Nobody could. I don't know that I could pick fine, and disappointing again. You must have been in that 6%.
6% for disappointing too?
No, it's 3% for disappointing. Okay. So not adding up there.
It's a very happy group there. We've got 90-some% in the top 2 for those 2 answers.
Yeah, I think this is overall, that's the theme. So this next question is one of our repeat questions. We have about a few of those, but we had these, and when I say repeats, these are from last year's. There's a whole scientific reason why we included these questions. On a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you that Penn State can make the college football playoff next year? For context, the average answer last year was a 3.8. This year, a 4.4. Oh, pretty good guess. That was good. The highest rated was 5 with 54%. So more than half are yes, they're making the college football playoff.
We've now seen this happen.
And then 34% said 4. And nobody said 1. Nobody doesn't think it. Nobody thinks.
Okay.
There were 2% said 2. That was the lowest answer. All right. This is the one that we put in last year to referendum of James Franklin. On a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you that Penn State can win a national title under James Franklin? Last year's answer was a 3.1. This year's answer, 3.6.
Oh, only that much. Okay. I didn't think it was going to be super high. Okay.
So 4 was the most common answer at 32%. However, 5 was up from 17% to 29%. So almost 100%, like an 80% jump there. And then 3, which was last year's most common answer, was at just 20%. So then that finished third in all of this. However, the 1 beat the 2, and by 4%. So it was a 12% on what said 1. So I think that's. I think people saw proof in the pudding, and I think that's why there was a rating bump, if you will. Okay. Next one was for people either that haven't seen Penn State win a national championship or have, if they will, after this. It was, how confident are you that Penn State will win a national title in your lifetime? So one more national championship, basically. The average answer last year, 3.5. This year, 3.7. Really slim margins of difference there. 5 was the number one answer at 32%, and I think it was about the same last year when we asked that question. However, down 10% this year was 1, or down from 10% was 1. So 10% of people said 1 last year. Only 3% said 1 this year.
Okay.
A little bit more optimistic.
These are some happy people.
Yeah. All right. Media outlets. In the we have an upset. We have a pretty big upset. Again, this is just all fan decided. Don't take this that seriously if you're reading this or looking at this and you work for one of these publications. Our preseason champion is in the 5 spot. Blue White Illustrated finished 5th this year.
Okay.
4th, Onward State. 3, The Athletic / Audrey Snyder. Like Audrey Snyder's coverage. Number 2, Penn Live. I think they appeared in the top 5 last year as well. And number 1 was Lions 247 this year. So congratulations to them on winning something.
Good get out the vote effort on their part.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what it boiled down to. Okay. We also asked about what like the average stars that you would give the networks. So like give an Uber rating for the networks. One modification this year, because essentially 3 Penn State games appeared on ESPN. I included ESPN. Did not include ESPN last year. So we don't have a barometer there. Most of these are within like a point or 2 of where they finished, except for one of which. So the lowest rated is unsurprisingly Fox, and it was at 2.3. More on that in a minute.
Their average star rating is 2.3.
Yes.
Right? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Average for BTN was 3.5, and it was razor thin. It was basically a rounding situation. That's how much ESPN beat BTN by with a 3.6. Okay. So that leaves 2 networks that Penn State games appeared on this year ahead of that. Which one do you think finished first?
I think CBS finished first.
You're
I don't
wrong.
know if that's what I believe, but I think that's.
You're
I
wrong.
would have picked NBC, but
NBC was what I would have also picked.
Okay.
So NBC finished with the 3.8. That's effectively what they had last year.
Right.
CBS went from I think second to last year, because Fox also had a 2.3 last year, to 3.7. They jumped up a lot. I think.
Well, they got to know them. They got to know them a little more. They've seen a few more games there. Yeah.
I think that was really what happened. So that's kind of it for the media stuff there, except for some very thoughtful ones, and then several of you that just had the F word and then either Gus Johnson, Fox, or Big Noon attached to it, which we just love that. The highlight of those types of ones was love listening to Jack Ham. Fox sucks. I tried to give them 0 stars, but it wouldn't let me submit. We'll try to fix that for next year.
That's great.
Season moment. A lot of people said the second interception. Some people said the first interception. The Tyler. A lot of people just called out the entire USC game, and then also highlighted Tyler Warren's performance in that. Someone gave a shout out to Tyler Warren's one-handed catch against Kent State, which I think probably in terms of like ESPN highlight plays, probably is that play of the year. I think that catch was so impressive. There was a very thoughtful answer from someone that said, I grew up a Penn State fan as both my parents are alums, but I'm a freshman at Purdue this year. Obviously, we struggled this season, so I still followed State closely. I went to the Big Ten Championship and the Orange Bowl with my dad and loved every minute of it despite the losses. And I thought that was very sweet. And then there was someone who knew how to grind my gears and then just said the fourth quarter flag was their season highlight. I think that's pretty much everything. We'll have more of those kind of shared answers. So censored some of them down. But yeah, no,
it's great that people respond.
Yeah,
thanks for people if you're listening this far and respond, taking your time. That's great.
No, I think, and I think all of that was about where I was at with all of that. I think would be the best way to say
I'd be interested, but maybe we should need to do some off-season stuff and checking around if Fox is as universally despised across the Big Ten as it is here.
Well,
I know people at Ohio State complained about the noon games at some point, but they watch them, right? I mean, that's the big conundrum for everybody. But I'd be curious at other places.
It would be interesting, and I don't know that you could, but it would be interesting to almost separate broadcast technique versus broadcast attributes, if you will. Because I don't think I think the Ohio State fans love Gus Johnson because of all of his nicknames, while Penn State fans don't like him because of that. But then I don't think they like the noon thing. I don't think the Michigan folks like the noon thing either.
Right.
So yeah, okay, all right. Well, that's
good stuff.
That's about it. All right, let's move on to this week's Old Guy Young Guy. Thanks everybody that submitted. Appreciated that. All right, this week's Old Guy Young Guy. The song "Call Me Al" was playing on our Alexa earlier today.
Okay.
And that song always makes me think of cafe. Just for whatever reason, that song is that song's playing and I think of cafe. So I want to know, Steve, what is the ultimate bar song attached to a bar?
Oh, I had a song for a place, but not a bar. I
put you on the spot here.
No, Piano Man at the Gaff, End of the Night.
That's good. That's a good one. I would. That's a very good song for the Gaff. I think of the Gaff.
Or any of the Gaff playlists, Brown Eyed Girl, early in the night.
Yeah.
All of those, but probably Piano Man, End of the Night.
Okay. I think the only other one that rivals Call Me Al at Cafe is American Girl at the First. For whatever reason, that song is that and the First are always kind of connected to me.
That's cool.
So,
right. That's good. That's a good question.
Okay.
Cool.
That's this week's podcast. Let's see what's on the blog. The blog right now has a thing about NIL. I thought there was a really interesting set of quotes, but really just one that was really interesting. I wanted to expand on that. The blog will have at some point this week, maybe this week, probably this week, a piece on. I just want to do everything we know about Beaver Stadium renovation. Just I have a running list because I think people are looking for that. And like I said, just want to help people out there. And then I would anticipate we're getting the NCAA fact sheet about the revenue and spend and all of that pretty soon. We'll do another if that comes out soon because it came out last year, the week after football season ended. So I would assume maybe this week or so. We'll get that. Update that and or we'll have a new one. We'll talk about that on the podcast. Interested to see what that says. Interested to see how much more money Penn State made this year and how much more money they spent this year. I know you're kicking.
I'm we're waiting for the playoff ratings to see if they need to frame anything around those. And I may do a post football. What do you do with yourself now? Kind of thing. Whether it's hockey, basketball, women's basketball, doing stuff it shouldn't, but then doing stuff it normally does. I don't know. We'll see.
I thought we should probably shout them out because we are the official podcast of Penn State women's basketball, basically. Uh, I got that one wrong. I didn't think they were going to win, and I thought they were going to get smoked, and they beat Ohio State, and they maybe can turn this season around. Maybe
some people who thought that to be the case too. So,
okay. Thanks for enjoying the podcast this week. Hopefully, you enjoyed the podcast this week, but I'm going to thank you for enjoying the podcast, anyways. Website is called StuffSummerSays.com. On that website, there's a section called With Steve. We've got a podcast which you listen to, 5 stars, thumbs up. Appreciate all of that. Thanks to everybody that submitted our survey. If you want to email us about those survey results, because we definitely didn't rig them. We did not rig them. That's just if you want to complain about them, though. And that just implies that I made that all murky.
Don't plant seeds. Don't plant seeds.
If you want to complain to me privately about the results of the survey which you submitted, you can do that at Darian at StuffSummerSays.com. Or if you want to complain to Steve, you can do that at Steve. Oh,
Steve at StuffSummerSays.com.
There you go. Don't complain to Steve. He works really hard. Other than that, 5 stars, thumbs up. Appreciate that. Our Twitter handles, mine's at StuffSummerSays. Steve's is
at Steve Samsel.
See ya. Bye.